ग्लोबल स्किल डेवलपमेंट मिशन में आपका स्वागत है।
Hopefully no problems with the artistic text. Now, how about the paragraph text? Well, paragraph text would be used more in a situation where you have lines of text or paragraphs of text where you want to create a text bounding box, if you will, that you want all the text to fit inside of. Okay? So artistic text, which we've already been introduced to, is really more suitable for things like headlines or just a small short piece of text, maybe a button label or something like that. Okay? So give me a moment here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to toast my text layer by using the good old trash can icon there. I'm going to head back to the type tool inside the toolbox just by tapping the T key on my keyboard. This time, rather than single clicking with the type tool, check this out. I'm going to click and drag out a box with my type tool, something like this. And we wind up creating what's referred to as a text frame or a text box, okay? And then what I can do is I can start typing in my text, or I could even paste in some text from somewhere else, and the text is going to be contained within this text frame. Okay, so in other words, if I start typing, eventually when I get over to the right-hand side of the text box, the text is going to wrap onto the next line and continue moving around, and is going to continue inside the text frame in that fashion. Okay, so let me give you some examples of how you might want to use this. I'm going to type in, once again, the text, "Come join us," something like this. Very nice of Photoshop to remember the color and the font that I had selected earlier, not the size though, but that's okay. And I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard, and then maybe I'll type in a date, Monday, September 1st, 2014, something like that. And then maybe a telephone number, maybe something like 416-555-0001, something like that. Okay, so we have some text in here. It's all being contained or bound within this text frame that we've created. I can now go and select this text. When I'm working with paragraph text, it's very similar to working with text inside of a traditional word processing application like OpenOffice Writer or Microsoft Word, something like this. If I want to crank up the size of this text, once again, a trip to the top of the interface to the options bar, and I could go and throw in some kind of a value here. Oh, I don't know, 130 or something like that. Okay, I can't use my free transform in this case. Now I'm kind of guessing. But what I could do is I could do something like this. I could grab the headline here, "Come join us," and I could make that a different size from the rest of the text inside the text frame, perhaps something like this. Okay? Now, what I could do as well is I could start working with both the paragraph panel and also the character panel, which I'm sure you remember from earlier on. I'll give you a quick 5-cent tour here. Starting with the character panel. The character panel contains options related to formatting and working with individual characters and words. For example, the font, the style. We could get into what's referred to as the leading and the tracking and so on, scaling, and there's our color there as well. And there's also some additional options down towards the bottom here, uppercase and capitalizing and superscript and subscript and so on. Okay, so I think a lot of the options that you see here are going to be familiar to you, again, if you've worked with traditional word processing applications, so I don't want to bore you to death here, but if there's anything in here that you want to see, feel free to monkey around with it there. All right. Now, if we flip over to the paragraph panel, here we get options and commands related to working with an entire body of text or block of text. So, for instance, controlling the alignment of that text, centering the text inside our text frame, or right aligning the text, or getting into justifying our text, things like this. Okay? You could get into setting up your indents, a left indent, a right indent, a first line indent, space above and space below. Okay, and you can also choose, of course, to hyphenate as well. So you can use the options that we see inside the options bar. That's certainly fine. Or you can use your character and paragraph panel, which contains a lot of the same options that the options bar does, but it also includes some additional commands and features, of course, as well. So I prefer working with the panels myself. It's entirely up to you. Okay? More importantly, though, I hope the concept of working with a text frame is working for you. If you want, you can start to size and scale your text frame by using the handles that we see inside the corners and on the edges there. Maybe I want to size it down, something like this. Because I told my text to center align, it's always going to be center aligned inside the text frame, regardless as to the size of the text frame. So bear that in mind, okay? So maybe I wind up with, something like this, okay? And then I could grab my move tool and then kind of micro position this guy, something like this, get him set up inside the white stripe that I've gone and created. Kind of off topic, but I'm going to go and grab my white stripe and use my free transform, Controller Command T, and I'll just kind of reduce the height on that guy, something like that, so it looks a little bit nicer. And for good measure, maybe what I'll do is I'll take the stripe and the text layer and I'll group them into a layer group, Controller Command G on my keyboard, and I'll call this text or text label or something like this. And then using my move tool, I'll move them down towards the bottom of my composition, something like that. Okay? Anyway, lots of fun here. I start to digress when I start getting different ideas, but there you go. There's your paragraph text. I hope it's working for you. Again, just play around, get comfortable with the different options that we have available inside Photoshop for helping you build your compositions.